Hello, I'm Lizzie and this is Lizzie Reads, and welcome to my Back to Fantasy reading vlog. Now in this we are talking back to life, getting back to fantasy. If you got the song reference there, proud of you. I have spoken a lot recently about being in a huge reading slump. Not being able to focus on reading, not being able to focus on a lot of things at the moment, but I've slowly been chipping away at reading, trying to get back to it. And one thing that I've been avoiding is fantasy. I haven't read a lot of fantasy in a really long time. The only sort of big fantasy moments I've had this year is continuing reading Robin Hobb, which has been great because I love Robin Hobb. I'll get more into that later. And the occasional fantasy book, nothing that I've enjoyed and overly or felt like I've enjoyed the process of reading. That's not because I don't want to read fantasy books, because I really do. I've been thinking a lot about wanting to read fantasy books, but when it comes down to the actual act of reading fantasy books, they're kind of starting to daunt me a little bit because it's been so long. I feel like I'm not a fantasy reader anymore. I mean, I don't think I ever was this huge fantasy reader. I think I sort of liked the lower stages of fantasy. I liked a lot of urban fantasy, a lot of YA fantasy, like the popular ones, and a couple of high and epic fantasies, but nothing like super deep that was on the page. On the screen is different, but that's a whole different story. So I've decided to I've given myself a plan. I've got a plan. I'm going to get back into fantasy. I'm going to get back to fantasy. It's going to happen, and I have a 6-part journey that I'm embarking on. And you heard that right, 6 parts. So this is vlog 1 of 6. Because this Christmas, this winter, this autumn-winter Christmassy season, I want to be cozying up with fantasy books, and I want to sort of enjoy and savour and try some new different things. So I have sort of decided to build myself up to that, and I've got a little timeline here. So I'm going to try and get this on the screen, and we'll see how we get along. In each vlog, I'm going to try and read about 3 books to try and like cement my confidence at that stage. I think by sort of cementing before I move on will be really good, and sort of help me sort of get really excited about moving forwards. And also, I just love a plan, I love a tick, and I love a themed reading vlog. Doing the romance vlogs that I did earlier in the year, which hopefully will be returning soon, just the 2 of those that I started, they were some of my favourite videos I've done all year. So doing this is quite exciting to me. So first of all, we're going to start with middle grade, and the 3 books that I have in mind to read in this middle grade section, which I'll talk a bit more about in a moment, are Inkheart, the next House of Olympus, Heroes of Olympus book, which technically is a YA, but it feels like middle grade to me. It's more of a middle grade level, so I'm reading it. And also Pinch of Magic. Then I'm going to move on to some YA books. So in this, I'm sort of just taking up that little bit more, like going into reading some books off my TBR that I've wanted to for a while, that just taking it that little bit further into the unknown, but still keeping it quite easy. And then, so I'm thinking like Beasts of Prey, maybe like Serpent and Dove, maybe one of my picks that I've received for like one of my books that I received from a book box, because I've got plenty of. I've got Iron Widow, Defy the Night seems like quite an easy one to read, Jade 5 Gold, all things like that are ones that I think, you know, would be really good to sort of read at this time. And some of them are quite light on the fantasy element, so we're moving forwards that way. Then I'm going to go next into adult, but I'm going to go into my adult comfort zone. So this is the area in which I'm familiar with fantasy, and you could argue the stage after this is easier, but for me this will sort of spur me to reading more, and I know it will, and it's a really good midway point, and that is to read the next section of the Robin Hobb Realm of the Elderling series, which will be the 4 Rainwild Chronicle books. Sorry if you heard that door slam. I don't know what some of the doors, the flat doors in the building, are really loud. So I'm going to be reading the Rainwild Chronicles, which is the next 4 books I need to read for just reading Realm of the Elderlings, and will take me to sort of the last trilogy. And I'm super passionate. I love these books so much. They really are some of the easiest and most accessible fantasy stories ever, but they are quite character driven, and they're very deep in sort of what I think of as hard fantasy, but they feel so easy to me. So I think that's sort of a good place for me to sort of start getting into my adult fantasies. And then the next one is going to be the adult, but the sort of easier side of things. So I think I might read a David Bad book, a Jade City book. They've got those sort of like urban-ish elements. They're not like high fantasy. They're not, I don't think they're high fantasy. I'm thinking Stardust because I love Neil Gaiman already. I'm familiar with Neil Gaiman. I feel like his style of writing isn't the style of writing that's going to be hard for me to sort of grasp and stuff. So I think that's a good preparation. And then I'm going to move on to adult sequels. So this is like right near the end. This is the push before I try something new. So I am going to potentially read the next Wheel of Time. I've got the Poppy War. I've got the next Jen Lyons book that I could be reading. So some of those fantasy series that I've started that I've been putting off because I'm not sure if like I'm like in the right frame of mind to read these books, but hopefully all the work that I've done before will prepare me to reread that. Or we move on to the next book in those series, which would be fantastic because then I'm sort of making progress on series. And then my final reading vlog for this challenge will be to tackle some high fantasy books that are scary to me. So I'm thinking Mistborn. I'm probably going to be reading some of the many books that Cassidy talks about and raves about because I want to read them. But I'm scared. So mainly all of the booktubers that I watch. So I'm thinking of books like that. I potentially thought about reading Priory of the Orange Tree, but I'm not sure like what's that's really about. I need to look more about what specific books are about so I can choose the best books to not set myself up to fail. So that's sort of where I'm going with this, and hopefully it's successful, and hopefully by the winter I'll be a fancy bitch again. I want to be a romance bitch. I am already a romance bitch. I want to be a fancy bitch. I want to be more of everything. So we'll see how we get on, and you're going to be following me on this journey. This is quite a long vlog kit to start, so this is going to be a chunky vlog. So as I said, I'm going to be reading Inkheart. I'm going to be reading The Mark of Athena, and I'm also going to be reading Pinch of Magic. I think it's like Rochelle Mead, or is that who? It's Michelle. It doesn't matter because I didn't tell you any of the other author's name. I am going to be reading, so as I just said, I'm going to be reading Pinch of Magic, The Mark of Athena, and Inkheart. I'll give you a little bit of a background on each one as it comes to each book, but I'm going to start with Pinch of Magic because I think it's probably the easiest to get into. It's probably going to be really super easy to get into, and also I can listen to it on audiobook and read it on Kindle, and I have like no expectations of it. I know that it's about 3 sisters, and that's about it. That's all I really know, which should be interesting, but I've heard really good things. I know that Jade and Gavin really like it, and I get a lot of basically all middle grade recommendations from them, so it should be good. I'm really excited to get started, and what I'll probably do is do like 30% updates, like in my romance vlogs I do 50% update and then an end update, and then I do a little ranking at the end. But there's going to be no ranking at the end. It's going to be more me talking about how I'm feeling reading each book and like how absorbed I'm getting, and I'm just going to be super open about me. Why is this very self-indulgent? This was very, very self-indulgent. Hope you enjoy it anyway. But yeah, I'm gonna get listening. And I wasn't misplaced in picking Pinch of Magic for my first book, because I am 35% of the way in. It's going really quickly. It's really easy to settle in. It's at the moment like light fantasy, very magical, more on the slight magical side of things, like witches, etc., like magical objects. But it's just like the perfect sort of like easing myself in to something a little bit more magical and fantastical. So that's quite good. I'm about 35% of the way through. Been listening and reading physically. I'm just making dinner, so I'm not sure how far I'll get tonight, but we'll see. Just a quick update to say that I'm about 60% of the way through. Again, really easy read, so nice to start with, just building slowly, not quite fantasy, well, just more magical, but yeah, I'm getting there hopefully. So I finished Pinch of Magic and I actually thought it was really good. I liked the way it sort of wrapped up. I definitely will continue the series. I think, yeah, I'm just enjoying it so far. I'm going to see what happens. But I think I'm going to try and keep the momentum going. And by trying to keep the momentum going, I mean, I think I'm going to start Mark with Athena. I think because I have access to the audiobook for this, it'll propel me along a little bit more. And also I'm really excited to get back to Heroes of Olympus and Percy Jackson, and yeah, I'm really excited. So I'll let you know how I get on once I've started. Hello, it is Monday and it is 5:30. I've just finished work for the day and I have been listening to the Mark of Athena when I can throughout the workday, which has been really good because I'm now 48% of the way through on page 290. So that's pretty good. I'm basically really making a lot of headway with this and I'm quite pleased about that. I'm really enjoying it. I love being back in the world. There's not as many fantasy elements as usual being introduced. We're sort of riding on the coattails of a lot of like previous information we've discovered, which is fine, which is really good, but not necessarily not useful for the project, but not building me up in the same way as I'd hoped. But it's still getting me like in a frame of mind of reading something different than what I have been reading. So that's really good. So I'm probably going to read this. I'm going to try and finish as much as I can. I've got an exercise class tonight, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to get read, but I'm really excited to carry on reading because I'm really enjoying it. I think the introduction at the beginning of this one, the way this one starts, made it a lot easier to get into, and it's not followed the same formula as some of the other Rick Riordan books that I've read in the Percy Jackson universe has. So we'll see how much I can get read. I'm really just enjoying it. So I haven't done any more updates because I wasn't very well yesterday, but I finished the Mark of Athena and I actually think it was really good. I gave it a solid 4 stars. There was so many different like plot threads, and with the amount of characters in this one and all the characters connected together, it sort of started to cross over a bit. And I feel like the focus wasn't quite there on each of the characters. Like it was hard to like grip everything. I think that's potentially also like with me being out of this kind of story for a while. I know it's only a Percy Jackson story. Well, not just Percy Jackson, but do you know what I mean? I think that took a little bit away from it. But I did really enjoy it, and it was nice to get back into that plotting and that sort of side of things in the questing style story. And I think although it is definitely a YA, and there's lots of talks about little relationships. It's all really super cute. It felt like different to the kind of books that I'm going to be reading in the YA section. So I'm glad that I put it in this one because that's where it felt like it belonged. I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to try and start Inkheart today. It would be really, really good if I could get to it and make a start on it. I'm really nervous about reading it. I think it's because it's like completely alien, like in the sense that I've only got it physically, and I was thinking about buying the audiobook, but then I thought, if I buy the audiobook, then I'm just like, I just want to try and read something physically, like entirely physically, if possible. And so that makes it a bit harder. It's quite long, and also I'm a little bit nervous just because it's like a news story, and it's not short. Like all of those things combined makes me a bit nervous, but it's still just a middle grade. So, and I really think that I'm gonna love it. So fingers crossed, it's good. I'm gonna go get it now and make a start. So it's been a little bit of slow going with Inkheart, but I am now reached page 180, which is about 30%. I would really, really like it if I can get to 60% today. I'm thinking I'm on my lunch break now, so I'm going to try and read as much as I can, and then read a little bit this evening as well. But my reason, I don't know if that's a bit far-fetched, because that's like another 108 pages, which I just don't think I can read in time. However, I am really enjoying it. I've reached the point where I remember pretty much everything. I think this is probably where I stopped reading when I was a kid, but I'm really enjoying it. The magic's starting to sort of like appear now, and I'm just quite interested, and I think that it's going to be really good, and it's nice to read something. It's really, really sunny and warm here at the moment, but it's nice to sort of read something quite cozy when it's so warm outside. I like reading cozy things when it's like cozy and wintry outside, but it is nice to sort of read it when it's summery too. So yeah, I'll see how I'm getting. It's been a little while since I've updated, but actually I haven't read Inkheart in a little while properly, I don't think. But I'd really, really like to finish it tonight. I'm going to see how far I can get. I might sit outside and read half an hour, see how many pages I've read, and then realistically evaluate if I'm going to be able to read the whole thing tonight. I've got 220 pages left-ish. I could definitely do it. It just depends how fast I read, but I'm going to go outside and get on and see, and I'll let you know. I just really want to like be done and start a new book, because I feel like I've been reading this book for ages. Not that I'm not enjoying it, I just need something. I'm just outside and it's a little bit dark, but I managed to read about 58 pages in 30 minutes. That's pretty good going. I don't think it'll take me even 2 hours to finish it if I read straight, because it's actually really easy to read. It's getting really interesting, so I think I'm going to try and hammer it out. I might stay out here for another 15 or 20 minutes before going inside. So I've just finished Inkheart, and I probably will do a bit of a wrap up of how I feel like the project's going so far in the morning. But I just wanted to let you know that I finished it and I really enjoyed it. I really like the ending. I like the way it sort of wraps up, but there are a few things unanswered, and how it wasn't too neat, but interesting, and yeah, really good. So I'm really glad that I've done this part of the project, but I'll speak to you more in the morning. So as promised, I thought I'd wrap this video up now this morning. Last night I finished Inkheart. I read like the last 180 pages, nearly 200 pages in quite a short amount of time. More than 200 pages I read in just a few hours, because I really wanted to get it finished, but the ending was really good, and really solid. I think what happened to me with Inkheart is that it's the kind of book you would sort of like read consistently instead of reading like a chapter here, a chapter there. I was reading for like 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening, which isn't how I'm used to reading, so I'm trying to like navigate that at the same time as trying to do this project, so it is a little bit difficult. because I'm not used to sort of reading in small chunks, but I need to sort of break that habit so I can read however. It shouldn't just be that that's the only way I can read a fantasy book. Obviously this is quite light on the fantasy, it gets a little bit more towards the end, but it's very light, but it's there, it's present, and it's like a good start, I think. Same with Mark of Athena. I think it was quite easy because I was already sort of like in the Percy Jackson universe, with having read 7 books prior to this one. So that was pretty good, and the book about the Widdowson sisters, Pinch of Magic, was good start, but they're all very light on the magic. I'm hoping to, in the next part of the project, read some a little bit more heavy on the fantasy elements, but we'll see what I've got. I'm trying to also prioritise books I do have on my shelves because that will help me read my TBR a little bit, so we'll see how we get on with that. But yeah, I think the project's going good. It's started, shall we say. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.